Hello. How are you? Welcome back to another episode of Not Just Revenue. And I have to say today, bizarrely, I am feeling really cold. Like I've actually had to have a word with myself about not putting on a jumper. So if anyone out of context, or if you are listening many months from now, we're currently in a heat wave in the UK, like the second or the third this year. Who even knows anymore? We now just have temperatures above 30 degrees Celsius pretty much consistently. And I think I'm climatized that today there is a breeze. So yesterday there was a breeze and it was just like nice. And I was like, oh, this just makes 30 degrees manageable. Whereas before, anything above 20 degrees, honestly, I would have been like, I'm not good with this. I want to leave this place. But anyway, yeah, yesterday over 30 degrees, but with a nice breeze was like, this is quite nice. Today, it's going to get up to 29. So, granted, not quite 30. But there's a breeze at the moment. I'm cold. I'm feeling cold. I've just closed the window in this room because I'm like, I can't be feeling cold while I'm trying to do this podcast. Anyway, my partner made a point the other day. He was like, yeah, we are, like, human beings are very adaptable. And I don't know, I just didn't expect to experience, like, 2 heat waves and be like, oh, I guess I'm just built for the warmth now. It's so funny. I have a client in Australia. Hello, if you're listening. And she was wearing a jumper the other day. And obviously it's our summer here in the UK is their winter on that side of the world. And so I was asking, what is the temperature? And they're like, it's so cold. It's freezing. And I'm like, cool. What is the temperature? Like, 12 degrees. The way a couple of weeks ago I would have killed for 12 degrees. Absolutely hilarious. But now, yeah, I probably, if it went from like what it is, like has been like 30 to 35 and it drops down to 12, yeah, I would be shook. I would be wearing all the layers. Anyway, there's my weekly tangent to start us off with. This week, I'm going to be talking about dopamine seeking in your business. Okay. And this comes from a bit of self-reflection. And I'm actually kind of expanding on the email that I have sent this morning. So I record all my podcasts first thing on a Monday morning and then edit and it's up for the week, basically. So I sent an email this morning and it is not the email that I was going to be sending today. And I don't want to repeat myself because some people might read my email, but in case you don't read my emails, in which case you probably should. This email is all about how I was about to go into this 14-day sales campaign for a new offer. You already know. For a new offer under the guise of it's a fantastic first step. You're going to identify your leak. You're going to get an action plan. You're going to get 2 weeks of Vox support. And if you want to come work with me in Momentum, then you can credit it. I won't lie, I loved the offer. It came from me kind of auditing my current onboarding process and figuring out how best to help clients, what's coming up originally that I thought was going to come up and what actually has been coming up, and always reiterating how best to serve my clients. But I came up with this DISCO audit. So DISCO is this idea that there are 5 parts of your business that you need to be working on consistently in order to get repeatable revenue. And the idea is that when someone joins me, we will go through this audit together and I will then present them with an action plan. And this is something I've already been doing, but I've just kind of been calling it like a 90-minute kickoff call. And like now we actually have a bit of a process behind it. I think it's a fucking fantastic offer. And if anyone wants a DISCO audit, DISCO, by the way, is design, identity, sales, cash flow, and optimization. So it's this idea that you need to design your business first against the life that you want to live. So we're talking about revenue goals, capacity, business model, offer ecosystem, all of that. Identity is obviously the mindset piece. That is all about how, you need to have the identity of someone who can have a successful business, because if you don't believe that you can make the money that you've just said in the design bit that you need to make, then you won't make it. Sales is, does what it says on the tin. That's all about, messaging, workflows, follow-ups, leads, all that jazz, marketing, all of that jazz comes under there. Cash flow is talking about the money management. So how does money kind of flow within your business? How are you tracking your cash flow? How are you keeping on top of it? All of that. And then optimization is all about using your business data. What data are you tracking and how are you using that to make informed decisions in your business? Kind of all comes together to work out, okay, is your business going to be making repeating revenue that you want to? Obviously, is it built to do that? And if it did make the money, are you going to be able to actually manage that? And then how do you repeat that? Okay, that's the vibe. Anyway, so disco audit, fantastic. I think incredibly valuable. Do I think this offer would have worked? Yes. Do I think I would have made sales? Yes. But let's talk about why I pulled the plug less than 24 hours after its conception. So this was me yesterday, right? This was me having this reflection of onboarding. Yeah, cool. Actually, that'd be really useful as like a one-off offer. Cue me doing a little post-toddler bedtime tippy-tapping on the computer. And before I know it, a sales page is up with a booking link and everything. The messaging's all done. And you've got a 14-day email sales campaign is written and scheduled. Look, I'm a mover. I'm a doer, okay? If I have an idea, you bet it's executed within 5 hours, right? It's hilarious. I know it's a problem. I don't even care. It's not even a problem, right? It's a problem, though, when it happens like this. Because had I not had the reflection of being like, oh, does this actually have a place right now? Had I not caught myself in that, the first email would be going out in 6 minutes at the time of recording. And then I would continue the ever crossing of fingers that it feels like we do in business. And I don't want to keep crossing my fingers and hoping that something works, okay? I want to sit with what I know works, to trust the process, do a bit of the disco audit on myself. And I know within my disco audit, and maybe that is a different episode of where I do my own disco audit and you can see how it works. Against myself, I know where I am, where my leaks are, okay? I think my design, that's my specialty, right? Biz design, tick. The cash flow part, tick. Optimization could be better, but I'm going to give it a big old tick, okay? Even sales is a big old tick. My biggest one is identity, and I know that, okay? I am the most self-aware person ever, painfully self-aware. So I know that the reason why I am not where I want to be is because of where my mindset has been this year. I know that. And so I know now that that is something that I can work on. So dopamine chasing. Dopamine chasing is obviously more of an issue for those of us in business that do have ADHD or some form of neurodivergence, but it can happen honestly to anyone. And it's this idea of that we are constantly needing to find new things to do, right? We're constantly chasing dopamine, the hit within our business, right? And in business, that looks like sales. Let's not lie. That looks like sales. It's not just likes and comments and everything else on social media. I think that social media has changed so much so that in a way, we don't really care about that right now. Like for me, the dopamine, it's in sales. But also for me, like I've said, I'm an executor. I am a doer. I love implementing, right? If I have an idea, the excitement for me is taking that from idea to reality, right? I am a natural born problem solver. Okay, I just want to create, right? Not creative. Do not get me wrong. I'm not a creative. I like to create. I like to build, right? So I am constantly building new things. I am always building new things, and I have always been building new things in my business. And to an extent, it has got me here, both in a positive and also in a negative. So in a positive, it definitely helped me in my first year to kind of like consistently try new things and to see what worked and what didn't, and to have that drive to get things done quickly and to kind of bounce back. But it has also meant that maybe this year, where I didn't have the security in my business, we're going to talk about this as well, and it's kind of a separate point, but where I've had less security in my business this year, actually dopamine chasing has caused more damage than good. And that is because with dopamine chasing and with consistently trying something new is we don't know what works. Okay. And it's not luck. I don't really think things in business is luck, right? It is, you can make your own luck. You can use the data. Everything's data. I know it's really boring, but everything is data. And so rather than using any of that data, I've just been throwing the spaghetti at the walls, being a doer, building, and then feeling like nothing has worked because I'm not able to give it the space and the chance that it needs. And I know this is a problem that I struggle with myself. And so that is kind of where momentum has come from. It's been like, okay, these offers not vibing. This is the offer. Let me try it. Okay, that worked. And now actually just being like, let me just sit with it. Let me keep going. Let me build momentum, right? Let me use momentum to build momentum. And so that is why we need to not be dopamine chasing. Okay, why we need to not be dopamine seeking within our business. And that's because within our business, things do need to be strategic. Okay, they need to be strategic. So they need to obviously align with the business that you're trying to design. You need to be using data to make decisions. And you need to actually give things enough of a chance to collect that data, right? And if we're constantly dopamine chasing within our business, we're not really going to get a chance to ever do that. Okay, we're not going to get a chance to see whether something is working or not. And so we're constantly firefighting within our business. The other thing kind of on the flip side of dopamine seeking, or what sometimes can be seen as dopamine seeking, is actually just scarcity. It is coming from a lack mindset or a fear of lack. And this is partly, I know I've got the duality. She's got both the ADHD, and this year has been tougher financially. So there is, of course, the scarcity in there. I have been a money coach for 6+ years. Does not mean I am immune to scarcity mindset. It just means I know when it's there. I know when it's hitting, okay? I'm able to spot the signs and to kind of use tools in order to kind of try and move out of it, right? But it still gets me, okay? Because I'm human, right? And a lack of money in a consumerist capitalist society is a threat to my existence. And so naturally, my brain's going to be like, panic. And I feel like the duality of when scarcity mode takes hold and when ADHD is like, oh, you want to try something new? And scarcity is like, oh my God, let's try something new. And maybe that'll be the thing that works. And it's a constant cycle. And so it takes, obviously, having the skills to identify, having the coaching to identify when that is happening, and also then the tools to be able to get out of it. Now, I'm someone where I have learnt the tools, I've built the tools for myself. Like, this is where we're at, okay? I'm having to like sit in my chair and be like, nope. This morning, unschedule all those emails, right? Write a different email, okay? Being truthful about my situation and where I'm at, and still holding steady with momentum, okay? I know that's where my sales are. Now, the name might change because I think Disco is a really fucking cool name. And ultimately, when you see my new branding that Jessica Digital Studio has done, you too will be like, of course your offer's called Disco. Insane. Honestly, guys, the branding is unreal. If you go to my website right now, by the way, and you go to just like emilynutley.co.uk, and you should get a coming soon page, you will be able to get a little sneak peek of the new branding. Anyway. Okay, we're taking stock of what I've spoken about so far and where I want to actually go with this episode. You know me, these things aren't planned, but I find that that's better, okay? Things just come up naturally. I've written notes over here. So first of all, you need to be able to identify, is it dopamine seeking or scarcity? Or they're both. They're both. Are you bored? Are you bored or are you fearful? Or are you projecting? This is another thing as well. Like if something is difficult in your personal life and you end up projecting it onto your business, that is also possible. So thinking about what is coming up for you right now, and I want you to think about how revenue, so that thing that everyone wants, right? The predictability, the easy breezy business, right? I'm going to call it repeatable revenue. Repeatable revenue is by design. Okay. No one stumbles upon repeatable revenue. I mean, maybe they do, but they'd have to have like such perfect, what's the word? The stars would need to be aligned, right? Repeatable revenue is by design. That is what the DISCO framework is there to help you build, right? So when we are throwing spaghetti at the walls, when we are constantly trying new things, when we are firefighting, right? That's not designed. Like, that is in no way designed, okay? And that is why it feels like it's so difficult. That's why it feels like you're constantly chasing the next thing. That's why it feels like there's never enough money, there's never enough sales, there's never enough leads, okay? That's why. It's because you don't have this repeatable revenue by design, okay? The DISCO framework helps you design it. The D in DISCO is literally design, okay, guys? That's not to say that you can design repeatable revenue and it happens straight away. Like, there is a kind of process of having to trust the design, right? Literally trusting the process. You have to trust the process with these things. And that is when you have the stars aligned, so you've manufactured the stars in alignment with your DISCO framework, of course. And you're like, I know that this will work. I have evidence to suggest that this will work. I have the data. I know that this will get me the money that I need it to make. I know that I know where to get the leads. I know how to do the thing. I know how to make this repeatable revenue, right? There's still then the implementation process, right? You still have to go out and do all the things, design all the workflows, the offers, the sales pages, clarify all the messaging. You still have to do all the things, of course. But there will also still be then needing the momentum. We need to stick with that for a bit, because once you are consistent with all of that, it will fall into place. And it's a bit like a snowball, right? Like this kind of like the snowball down a hill and it gets bigger and bigger. What is happening when you're not allowing your snowball to build momentum is you're like trying to get to the next jump. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like skiing. Not that I've ever been skiing, but imagining like a mountain. You're going down a bit and you're like, oh, this was a bit boring. Even though you've not got to the fun bit yet, right? And you're like, oh, let me try another one. So you go like to the next one. That was boring. You never get down to the fun bit of the mountain. What with this analogy here? You need to let it build. And that is scary. That is the hard bit, right? Especially when it feels like there's maybe no instant validation. And I mean, there are lots of different ways in which we can see, it's a lot of trial and error and we have to do it very quickly, right? So it's a lot of, what messaging lands? Do my clients, are they getting results from this? All of these things. Have I got the right audience? All of these things. But we can, with the O part of DISCO, the optimizers, we can work out what data we need to be tracking. And we can be constantly like, okay, put this out. Did that work? No. Put this next thing out. Did that work? No. That is fine. And you might be like, Emily, but you've just spent an entire podcast talking about how you shouldn't just like be throwing spaghetti at the walls. Because that's not spaghetti. Because I have a very clear plan behind it, right? A very clear design behind it. Okay. Okay, great. Literally, it's like dipping the toes. Again, I'm like, okay, what's the analogy here? I'm thinking of like you've got a fish tank, right? You've got the little fish food, right? The fish food is, I don't know, your messaging and your Instagram posts and, this, that, and the other, right? All the things kind of validate, is it working? Sales. And you're sprinkling over your fish food, right? Some of it sinks to the bottom, doesn't it? I don't know if you've ever had fish. Some of it sinks to the bottom, right? Some of it gets snapped up. These fishes are like, bam. We would track which pieces of food did the fish bite. Why did they bite it? Are the right fish biting it? How much are they eating? We can track it very quickly and be like, right, do more of that. And this is where to some regards, business is meant to be boring, right? Because once you find, okay, it's that and that, repeat. Do the same thing over and over and over again. Your snowball will start to go down the hill. It will start to get to the exciting bit, and you will build momentum, and you will be where you want to be in your business. You will have repeatable revenue. But what you need to do is you need to hold the stare. Okay, you need to hold the stare. You need to trial and error. You need to test what's working. You need to use the data. Everything needs to be intentionally designed for this to work, by the way. And then you will have repeatable revenue. So that's it. I was just looking down at my notes to see if there's anything else that I want to mention. Not really, okay? Ultimately, a lot of this as well comes down to having safety in your business, because if you don't feel safe to hold that stare, and there are things we can absolutely do in that process of, when we're holding the stare and we need to bring in some cash flow as well. There are so many different ways you can generate money within a business. Like, there are things we can absolutely try. But I would always, and this is why the cash flow piece is such an important piece of what I do. And obviously, you guys might know, the money coaching bit, like that is my background. It is so important to me that you have a cash flow system that allows you to have a predictable, consistent owner's pay, but also to build savings within the business. And that is so that you have this kind of safety, right? So you know that your income is protected no matter what, so that you have the space to hold the stare. You have the space to be able to trial and error, right? Because if you don't have that, if you do not have the financial security within your business, then of course things are going to feel difficult. Things are going to feel scary. It's going to feel like you don't have the space to trial and error. You do not have the space to be consistent with something when you're unsure whether or not it is working. So I get that. Now, obviously, I know there's a catch-22 within that, which is like, where you're like, well, Emily, I need the consistent income in order to build some of that safety, but I need to build some of that safety so I can get that consistent income. And I get it. I've been in that space. I'm potentially still in a bit of that space, but also I know how it works. And I also know how the brain works with scarcity. And I understand. I have tools to help you, and what I use on myself daily in order to help our brains and our bodies feel safe with what we have, and to feel safe within our business while we are waiting for that money to come in. And like I said, there are so many ways of bringing money in that if it's a case of, do you know what, maybe we do some of that, trying something, a bit of the spaghetti at the walls to begin with, to get to where we need to be. But I would say 9 times out of 10, we can use some of the data that you already have in your business to be like, okay, that worked maybe like, I don't know, a year ago, 6 months ago. Let's just try that again, bring in a bit of cash flow, and then we can design this new iteration of your business, this upgraded version of your business that you're wanting to. So that is this week's episode. Do let me know if you found that interesting at all, or whether it was just me going off on another rant for 30 minutes. You can, if you want to do a disco audit with me, you can. I mean, I built a sales page and booking and everything now. If you want to do it, it's the first part of Momentum anyway. So it is the kind of 90-minute audit that we would jump into right away. There's a very quick form that you fill in that kind of gauges some kind of like gut reactions to certain questions. So you by no means have to be perfect. We then hop on a call, go into a bit more data, do a bit more deep diving, bit of data excavation. And then after, you'll probably get a load of tips on the call as to what to do to bring in more revenue, but also to build some of that financial security within your business. And then I will go away afterwards, build an action plan, deliver that to you so you know what to do, in what order, when to do it, what the focus is. And you also get 2 weeks worth of Boxer support included, so you can get support implementing. But also I know that loads of questions sometimes come after the call. So that is there. They're $497. Like I said, it's also the first step in Momentum. So I do this with every Momentum client anyway. So if you're thinking of joining Momentum, just join Momentum, because I only book 2 slots a month. If you're not sure, do this, and then you can credit it towards Momentum anyway. And because of just how things work, if you pay for the $497 up front, then you can also reduce the payment plans on Momentum as well if you did want to continue, because you're taking that $497 off of the price. At the end of this month, the pricing for Momentum is going up, okay? Just so you know, in July, the pricing will be different. I think off the top of my head, this is me literally not guessing, but like, I do have these numbers somewhere, but no, I don't want to get them wrong. But I feel like it's going from 1,500 for 3 months to 1,800. I'm from 2,700 for 6 months up to 3,400. She says, maybe 3,100. I honestly don't know. Anyway, they're going up next month. So if you're interested, get your ass in gear now. Apply now. As long as you apply in July or book a sales call in July, and then you join. But if you actually like do your first payment in August, that's fine. But I need you to be like, yes, I'm in, and like signing on the dotted line in July, and you can, book your spot. So I know a few people have wanted to do this for September. So thinking, can I lock in the price now, but start in September? Yes, absolutely. Just reach out. That is not a problem. But I will see you and I will speak to you next week. Thank you very much for giving me your time. I am incredibly grateful that you decide to listen to my voice for half an hour every week. And so thank you, and I will see you probably on the gram. Bye.